Hey, it's Nikki here back on Addicted to Betterment with our friend Steve Perkins from Greenhouse. He is taking us through this journey of building these core foundational habits from the roots up approach. So we are so enjoying learning from Steve, and I think there's a lot in store with this episode. Take a listen.
Hey friends, David here with Addicted to Betterment. And man, if you are familiar with our show at all, one thing you know about us is we are absolutely relentless in pursuit of living life at a 10 in every area of our life wheel. And I believe passionately that it doesn't have to be an either or. It doesn't have to be, man, I'm killing it at work and my home life is a wreck, or I'm killing it in my fitness and my work life suffering. We believe you can live a super fulfilling life. As a matter of fact, anything less than a fulfilling life isn't worth, that's the only goal that we have. And last year, I went through one of the most challenging seasons of my life in my professional life. And I got to share with you, friends, that sucked the life out of me in most every other area. Things were challenging at home. I'm sure I wasn't the best father. I wasn't the best husband. And my fitness suffered. Everything suffered because work was draining the life out of me. And fortunately, I surrounded myself with lots of great people. One is my guest today that I can't wait to chop this up with him. But surrounding myself with great people and getting to the other side of that, to the season where I'm absolutely in a great spot at work. I'm loving what I'm doing. It's filling my cup. And I know because of that I'm a better husband. I'm a better father. I'm a better friend. I'm a better son. Every other area of my life benefits when my work life is flowing. And my guest today, a good friend and CEO and founder of Greenhouse, host of a fantastic podcast, Roots Up, Steve Perkins. Great to have you here. It's an honor to have you on the show, and it's talking about one of my most passionate topics. Thanks for showing up today.
Yeah, good to be back on together, and thanks for sharing what you did. It's I didn't know all that you were going through too, and it's always good to know and be in it together.
Which makes today's topic that I'm so excited to talk to you about. You have a passion, and I remember our first conversation. Friends, we're doing a series with Steve. He's so good at helping people live a fulfilling life and in every area. And he's got so many tools and practical tips in his coaching, platform to help people do that. So just to have him on the show is an honor and a privilege and something I personally am excited about because I know I'm going to be taking a lot of notes. But your passion is around helping people find their sweet spot in their career. Tell me more kind of your backstory, where that came from. I just shared my story, and you and I know the power of being in your sweet spot in your business life. Where's that come from?
Yeah, it did come from my own story, which was always wondering what I wanted to be when I grow up and never knowing how to figure that out. It's interesting now doing what I do for work. I look back and I look at our society's kind of trajectory, and it's like, well, yeah, most of us never learned how to find fulfilling work or how to figure out our strengths and our passions. So we went to school for all these other things. We know all this math and history and science, but we didn't we didn't learn about ourselves. And I mean, I'm happy to see that starting to shift in the education system. But for me, I had a very windy career path, which is actually quite normal. I've come to learn now. Everyone thinks they're alone in that. I felt very alone. Like, man, I'm the only one who doesn't know what I want to be and how to get there. I go to college to be an engineer, which was a great foundation and I'm grateful for it, but it was not the right field for me. And I think I just had this feeling most days in various different jobs. And the only way I can characterize it is I would be driving home and I would feel like, man, I only gave like 20% of myself today. And it feels like there's this whole other part of me that's not being tapped into because I'm somehow in the wrong fit with my work. But we spend most of our waking hours at work, something like 80%. And I think it matters. Like I want I want it to count. I want to do good work. I want it to be fulfilling. I want to make a difference. And I don't know how to get there. And I was kind of almost jealous or angry at people who would be on stages. You'd go to some conference, whatever, you'd hear some speaker talking about like that eureka moment when they found their calling. And I just got really jealous and then kind of turned into anger at some point. Like, man, how come, when's that going to happen for me? Like, how did that happen for them? And I started looking around and it didn't seem like there were many people or places that could help you figure this thing out. So I resorted to what I think a lot of people have, just waiting and wondering. Like, well, I'll just wait until the lightning strikes one day and I have that, moment of clarity that this guy on stage had. And I just hope that that'll happen. So I don't know. I was trying to do like personality tests and read the books and listen to podcasts like this. And it would be inspiration, but it would still kind of leave me stranded. Like, what do I do now? So I go to my job the next day and kind of struggle through, and then I don't know, hope that something happens that changes it. And I've come to find through this work, like a lot of people are in that place. Historically speaking, even just where we're at this point in history, the Industrial Revolution kind of erased purpose from the workplace. And people are starting to realize and go, wait, no, like we want that back. And that's a recent thing in history. Like most people, their life and work were always tied together in a meaningful way. And the factory system kind of got rid of it. So I actually think we're also at a time when it's a good and realistic question about, hey, I want work to be meaningful. Because, some people feel bad about that. Like, oh, well, who am I to, you know, ask for work to be full of purpose? Some people are just struggling to stay alive in the world. I'm like, no, I think it's a valid question that we're all kind of struggling with. And then post pandemic, it amped it up because we were all sitting at home thinking about our lives, seeing through a new perspective. And the stats are through the roof now that people want purpose and meaning, and they're rethinking their career and life, which I think is why a lot of people are going into entrepreneurship. So I just became obsessed with this thing. I was working in a Fortune 500 type corporate setting, checked all the boxes. I was doing the thing that you were supposed to do and, got to a point that was apparently the dream. I didn't feel like it, but apparently that was the dream. And I just started having conversations with people and mentors and, taking different tests and I still felt really stuck. I was like, I don't know my strengths. I don't know what I'm passionate about. I don't know how that fits in with work. But I know that I've always enjoyed like fire pit conversations about life with people. I've always enjoyed like this question of what do you want to be when you grow up and the conversations around that. And I've always loved entrepreneurial things. Like I've always had ideas and I'm starting something and trying to make a buck. So long story short, this mentor I had met with for breakfast every morning for a couple of years. He had put together a little questionnaire and it was like your life mission statement. And I was going through it. And so we got to breakfast and she's like, all right, share what you wrote down with me. And I was like, okay. So I took the paper out, it's kind of, maybe as a guy too, it feels vulnerable and weird to share this stuff sometimes. And so I go to start reading the page, what I wrote down. And I said, well, I don't know, but here's my thoughts. And I start reading it. And I'm feeling like, whatever. And he stops me. His name is Tommy. And he goes, okay, stop right there, Steve. I think what I'm seeing here is like what would make you the most excited and alive and fulfilled in life is if you could help the people you love most figure out what they're meant to do. And I just start like tearing up. And so we're at this Cracker Barrel, over our runny eggs and bacon. And I just started like crying and I don't even know what hit me. And so after that, we started kind of unpacking like what's going on there. And I realized like he had poked on something deep in me that I'm wired for. And it wasn't just that moment, but that was one of the moments that started helping me unlock, like, oh, what I'm meant to do is help people find their calling. That's my calling. I want to do it in an entrepreneurial way, but I'm stuck in this corporate cubicle world. And, I've got all these things that just aren't aligned. And this is what I've always wanted to do, but I was afraid to say it. I was afraid to go for it. I was afraid to what would be behind that curtain. And as you and I talked about the first time on the podcast, like I was terrified to tell my wife of that idea. So for me, that was kind of like the journey that started unlocking it, but it also sent me on this mission to build a process. Like, what if there's a coaching process that help people unlock this for themselves? And I really think everyone's got unique wiring, like unique value to bring to the world. And it's just a matter of kind of digging it out of there, like finding it again.
That's so good. Thank you for sharing that. I do remember getting some good laughs about your being terrified to share it with your wife because I can relate to, those some of those things you're like, I don't want to have this conversation. When we talk about meaningful work, so you used right there when you were sharing that, you used the term finding meaningful work or finding purpose. I think so many people have this misconstrued perception of what that is. It's like this ideological thing that, like, oh, you're in some kind of mission, or you're, a doctor that saves people's lives, or it's this big purpose. And I feel like it's easy to kind of allow mediocrity in our career to settle in because it's like, well, look, I don't have this big calling on my life, or it's a comparison game where I look at people that in my world that I work closely with that are very successful, have a great network. And man, when they speak, it's big impact and, they're helping a ton of people. And I'm thinking, man, that's purpose. Or it's, it's all the different things. And it's easy to be like, I'm not wired for purpose, or, that sort of thing. And the reality and where you help people so much is it's actually much bigger than this idea of, like a preacher or a missionary or a doctor or someone like what you do. So it'd be easy to listen to you and be like, well, you have purpose because you're, coaching people to do that. I don't do that. I'm an engineer, or I work as a salesperson, or I'm a people leader, or whatever it is, and to think that's not my job, but you can find a job that fills your bucket. You can find purpose within that when you find your sweet spot. It doesn't have to be necessarily this big, meaningful title. Help me understand what that looks like. Shed some light on that for me.
Yeah, man, you're so good with this stuff. It's true. So the biggest, I want to say limiting belief, I actually want to say lie. I think there's a huge lie that we believe that you're touching on. And it's this idea that, like, well, I don't have a thing. I don't have a special I don't it's the imposter syndrome piece. And so I'll get this a lot. People want to take this conversation and tame it down and be like, yeah, but there's no like one calling because that's too much pressure. Like, you're looking for that one thing, and if you miss it, then you've screwed up your life. Like, we can have lots of things that we're interested in. I mean, yes to all of that. But everyone is wired in a unique way. And this is actually just facts. So think of it this way, like, you are the only person in the entire world who has the personality you do, combined with the experiences you have, combined with the situation you're in, combined with the strengths, passions, all of those things combined. You are literally one of a kind. There's no one else on the planet with that same exact combination. Even a set of twins, not the same. And so what's interesting is, by definition, then, it is factual that everyone has a unique thing to bring to the table. Now, if you take that lens, like, I would love to debate anyone on this because I've studied it my whole life. It's like, no. You actually have a unique wiring, which means you have a unique thing to bring to the world. And, for me, it's also, there's a spiritual component that I think everyone has, this vocation calling that is like what they bring to the world, not just at work, but, through their whole life. And so either way, however you look at it, you have a uniqueness to bring. And yeah, all we're talking about is, could I marry my work, my kind of how I earn a living thing up more with that way that I'm wired? And I think that's where people, when they're saying like, oh, it's not one thing that you have to find this perfect calling, all that they're really naming is the fact that, like, yeah, your job's going to change and seasons of life change. It's not like there's one specific place for you forever, but it is about trying to get that combination married up more and more. How could what I do all day be closer and closer to how I'm wired and what I'm meant to do? So that's the part I experienced where school didn't guide me with that at all. They guided me towards what will make you the most money. And honestly, what will make the education system the most money? Well, doctor, lawyer, engineer, like, come on, this is what you got to do. And, and then we all like pursue these careers, at some point realize the money's not making me fulfilled. So wait a minute, I think the formulas should be different. Yeah, because it's about how you're wired. And I intimately relate to the scenario you're talking about, David, because my wife is a very like in the details person. She's not a big picture dreamer like me. So it's weird for her to think about like purpose in her work. What do you mean? She's just kind of like a very detailed, task oriented person. And yet, she has come to find work that is much more aligned to her wiring, and it has brought more purpose and meaning. So I get it. And I do feel for the people who listen to this and they're like, yeah, but that's not me. Or I don't like help people and speak on stages. I'm just, an admin in an office. Like, oh, no. This applies to everybody.
I can't tell you how much I love what you said. It's interesting. My wife is one of the most purposeful people that I've ever been around. Like just lives all in with purpose and is so wired for purpose. So someone like her, it's hard to even convince her to do something if it doesn't have a purpose. Then, one of my favorite people, a colleague that I work with, is someone who would be in a support role, is kind of a task oriented person, and one of the best that I've ever worked with. And she's so great at it. And it's one of those, she doesn't have a lot of clout, a lot of power. There's not a lot of even recognition. It's just, she's just a doer. She's a soldier. And I've always been so inspired by how is it that someone can show up every single day, year after, and just kill it in this support role with very. So one day I asked her, I took her to lunch and I sit down and I asked her and I was like, what is it that makes you tick? What is it? And she told me, and I'll never forget this, Steve. She said, I just love helping people. I just love, helping people solve their problems. And so to the average person that's saying, purpose that's for somebody else. That's not for me. It's not a status. It's not a revenue goal or it's not the car, the house, the thing. That's the result of when you find purpose. But for her, in just an admin role that's very much a support thing and kind of gets handed all the tasks all the time. For her, she found her purpose. And what you do is help people find her career sweet spot. And it's cool. So, man, thank you so much for how you help people do that. And I'm wondering, do you have a process or something that people could follow, like a map to do that? Because a lot of people don't even know where to start to figure what that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's get into that, because there are three specific things. And I think to start, because you're naming it with that story, there is an intentionality here. And I think it's the theme about everything you and I talk about, is shifting from kind of reactive to this proactive intentionality. So, like in my story, well, I was just going into jobs that other people said I should do, or like a lot of people find in their career, it's just whatever the next right step is. Someone is like, oh, you should do this next, or this is the opportunity at hand. That's what we do. And so that's reactive. And no wonder then it's someday we wake up and we're like, where am I? Is this my thing or what? And so if we can be proactive, which is the process I'm about to explain, then we can say, yeah, but what's a good fit for me? So same thing, like my wife and I went to the same university that wanted us all to be, world changing doctors and lawyers. And she was like an admin for a long time. I mean, that was a better fit for her. Like, and now she's found her way into her own business, but it leverages her strengths versus like what the world says she should be doing as a graduate of that place. It's kind of so I think the way to get intentional is these three questions. The first one is the what. What are the skills that you are good at and that you enjoy? The second is the where. Where is the environment you thrive in? And the third is why. And the why is where people can get hung up. Like, what's your why? What's your real driving purpose and mission? And I think it's sometimes helpful to just simplify and say, the why is just like, what problems are you made to solve? So your colleague, her example is helping people at a logistical level accomplish their goals. That is the problem that she's made to solve. For you, you've got multiple, but one of them is helping like activate people and come alive in their life and step into their potential. This is like the problem that you solve in the world. And so the what and the where are a little more self-centered. What do I like? What am I good at? And that's important because if we don't serve ourselves, we're not going to be able to serve others. But the third one, the why, is others centered. And that's what brings the life and meaning because we're all meant to help in some way. So the what, where, and the why combined, they open your eyes to where a good fit is for you. Now, my example was, and this is a lot of people, toward the end of my time in corporate, the what I was doing coaching stuff. I was developing culture. I had found a niche within the company to do that. So cool. Like I'm doing this using my skills and talents. The why was even there because I'm helping transform an organization and people's lives. That's where I was like driving home and feeling like I'm only giving 20% of myself. What's going on? And the where is what unlocked it for me because I am wired to be entrepreneurial and I was stuck in a cubicle. So like that was crushing my ability to be fully alive because I couldn't go meet people like you and be on podcasts and I couldn't build things and I couldn't create opportunities. I had to just kind of follow process and that's not how I'm wired. That's not to say it's good or bad. My wife Ashley loves structure. She loves to have like clear rules to follow. So it's not about good and bad. It's not about comparing. It's about what is your wiring. And if you dig into the what, where, why, you start to see themes and patterns emerge. And so the process of Career Sweet Spot is all about finding those patterns by sharing it with other people. You kind of have these intentional conversations. We call them curious conversations where you're bouncing these thoughts and experiences and stories off of people and they do the work for you. Like they start pointing out the themes and they eventually do what Tommy did for me. And they're like, dude, this is the thing. And then you realize because you heard it from someone else, it's kind of a process of story, like unearthing the stories of what you played as a kid. That's a big one. That's kind of fun. What, brought you alive in the past. And then using those stories to figure out your what, where, and your why. And I mean, it sounds daunting to people, but it can be simple. I've gone through this whole thing with people in like an hour. It's just taking the step of intentionality to do it. And sometimes that can be scary or it can feel like you don't have time.
That's so good. So, what's some things people can do? You mentioned, think about what you dreamed of as a kid and those things. Are there any practical steps you can give someone to really identify what they're good at? Because I've actually asked people that before. What are you good at? I don't know.
It's such a hard question to answer because it's hypothetical and people don't know. I remember that too. I hated job interviews where they were like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like, I don't know. Does anybody know? Like, this is crazy. And we actually we can link it here, but we have a mini course that walks you through this step by step, or you can get on a call with a coach and go through it. But the key is starting with those memories and those stories. What did you play as a kid? Like, what were the things if you had a whole weekend, it's nothing to do, or maybe in the summer during school, early school years, the ideal range is that kind of 8 to 15 years old. What were the things you naturally did? I mean, for me, it was like building forts, playing with Legos, like capture the flag with the neighbors.
I'm sitting here wondering what Nikki's going to think when she comes out and I'm playing with Matchbox cars on my
Yes.
desk, and I'm like building the log forts and stuff and driving Matchbox cars through there. She's certainly going to think I've lost my mind.
Yes. Like, oh, you're podcasting? Okay. Okay. So just to illustrate for people, what's a specific memory you have of playing with those things?
Oh man, wow, great question. So when I was a kid, I had this massive like rug or like a mat that I would roll out, and it had streets and roads. And so I would get my wooden logs. I don't even know if they still make those anymore, but I'd build these logs, forts and houses and all this on this mat and drive, my Matchbox cars. I just, that's a great question. I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
Yeah. That's cool. I remember the logs too. Was it Lincoln logs?
Yes. That's what we're
Those are so great. Okay, so what was it about doing that like you lost track of time doing it? Like what sucked you in? What about it made it so fun?
I think the creativity of building something that you could see what you built, and the pride that I would take in, and being like, wow, this is so cool.
Yeah. Okay. So right there it is. You said the word build. You are a builder, and this is core to your what, where, and why, all three, is you're wired to build. So I'm guessing it's probably true for you that you hear that and you're like, yeah, but doesn't everybody? Like, who wouldn't enjoy that? And there's the thing, there's the imposter syndrome, because that is not true. So many people do not like building. They're not wired to build, or they need someone else to like start building and then they kind of optimize it. What you uniquely do, and yeah, I mean, so we just uncovered that in what, 3 minutes?
That's interesting. Wow. You have no idea how much that applies to the things I'm working on. Incredible.
Right? And it's that simple insight that showed up as a kid. Why? Because at that age, you're not yet jaded by all the other influences of what you should be or how you should show up, what, other labels people put on you in jobs. No, you're a builder. And like my daughter plays with similar toys, but she doesn't play it that way. She's not a builder. Like the way she plays with it is she makes little scenes and she wants to make the guys talk, like, so it's interesting. Even people will be like, "Oh, I love sports. That's my only memory, sports." It's like, yeah, but what about the sport was interesting to you? Some people, it's the community of the other people. For some people, it's the competition. One of my buddies is big on like, he was like an Olympic rower. For him, it was all about the goal and the aim and achieving it. That's why he liked sports. For some people like me, it's the complexity. I liked trying to figure out the system. Like, how does it work? How can we like make this play on the team, work the best? Because I'm a team builder and I'm a like strategy person. So it's just, but this illustrates the point. It's just digging back to like, what are those memories? Start there, because then it's not hypothetical. You're not having to answer, where do you want to be in 5 years? It's just, no, what did you actually play? And let's start to find the themes there.
That's good. I just learned a lot right there. Wow. Just to dive into this a little bit more myself, I played sports my whole life, and I love the team camaraderie. Like I love being a part of a team. And so specifically, I love being a part of the team. And then if it's basketball, let me guard the best player. I want to contribute. And, I would love passing, making a great pass to a guy to make the shot as much as I would love, scoring myself. But man, I wanted to be the biggest contributor to our team winning, and that feel of everybody fired up and fist bumping and chest bumping.
And that's totally you. I mean, from the minute we met, you were a champion of me and what I'm trying to do just as much as what you're trying to do, which is like, what's the catch here? Like that's a rare thing. And now we've created a partnership and we're doing stuff together, and you want rising tide to lift all of the ships we have.
100%.
I just had a client recently who was an executive at a big company. And as we're talking about this stuff, and we're exploring the stories of what she, what brought her alive and what she did as a kid. What's coming up over and over is this creativity thread. And she's really good, like coaches are, at unlocking other people's creativity and potential. And the more we start identifying those themes, the more she sees how that is not lined up with her job right now. She is in a job where she is supposed to manage to a plan and show numbers, results, and squash her creativity because that's a problem. So it can be a tricky process when you start realizing you're in the wrong lane. But man, she said it was this one conversation, and we were talking about kind of being a generalist. Like she's like an and person. She wants to be creative and make a lot of money. She wants to be like successful with business and artistic. And I said, yeah, you're like a generalist. And the problem is in corporate world, there's not a box on the org chart for that. So you probably have a lot of people in the company who say, oh, I love you. You're the best. Everyone wants you on their team. But then you don't get promoted because you're not like the producer of the dollars. And she and she just, starts tearing up. Like she goes, I've never felt so seen and heard. I have been struggling with this for so long. Like, what do I want to be? And she goes, I feel ashamed that at this age, mid 40s, I still have no idea. But what we were able to talk through was, no, you do know. You just told me. It's in there. It's just been squashed by all these other voices. And so maybe it's time to step into a job that celebrates your creativity and the fact that you're the person everyone loves on their team. Because she is. She's an incredible people leader, an incredible like builder of talent. And so sure enough, like she's started stepping into her own business and has a plan to fully shift into that. And she's just coming alive. Her marriage has been like growing and getting better. Her relationship with her kids, her, health, because like you guys do with the life wheel, they're all connected. And oftentimes the job is what's the thing kind of sucking the life out because it's so much of our awaking hours.
So we talked about playing as a kid, which we dove into and I got very excited about. Thank you for opening my eyes to several of those things. Do you have any other tips, action items that someone listening to this could use to start mapping out kind of what that sweet spot could be?
Yeah. Well, me and Nikki were talking about this, and she actually had a couple ideas I thought I'd share that were really good that go along with what you played as a kid. And one of her ideas was reflecting on your last flow state moment. What's one of the times where you recently you can remember where you kind of lost track of time and you really felt in the flow and you maybe accomplished something that felt good? And so what I would add to that is then reflect on the what, where, and why of that moment. Where were you physically? What was your environment? Were you alone? Were you with people? Was it quiet? Was there music? Were you moving? Were you still? Were you drinking something or not? It's just like, think about the what, like what were the actual skills you were using in that flow state? What was the problem you were solving? So we don't have to make this overly grand. Sometimes it's super simple. Like right now, I feel fully alive doing this with you because I love dialogues with people about these kind of topics. And the only thing I would change if we could is like being in person.
Right. Same. Yes.
And so I'm noticing, okay, my environment is like, I've got time. I'm not rushed. I don't have to like rush in and out of meetings. I get to be with someone who's also like a thought leader and excited about building a life. And so reflect on those things. Another one she had was ask other people, friends and mentors about your standout qualities.
That's good. That's good.
Love it, love it, love it. And a lot of times with clients, we'll have them ask their mom first because a lot of times those people closest to you, like they've seen it in you a long time. And if you invite them to share, they will quickly point out your standout attributes. It's like, oh, David, yeah, you've always been a builder. Everything you touch, you're always building. you don't see it clearly because that's the water you swim in. So if you ask other people, that's really good. And then, like I said, I mean, I would encourage people, if you're motivated, if you're still listening, go through the mini course or get a coaching session on this to move into action, because it's easy to just stay in the like reflection stage, the introspection. And what it helps you do is move it into action. What do the insights mean you should do next? Because it's not like you have to change your life tomorrow. Usually it's just a baby step. It's like, oh, okay, well, you should take the Lincoln Log story and share it with Nikki. That's your next step. After you share it, you should shut up and let her react, and you should take notes on what she says. Like, that's it. That's your next step.
That's good. So what I'm hearing, it's all about intentionality. It's all about just being super intentional, which, is that'll play out every area in life. And then I heard you talk a lot about not being reactive, being proactive, taking those steps. And I believe as much as you do, and you help people do this, that you can grow the life that you want. Like, that's your tagline, grow the life you want. I believe you can. I'm living it out, actually. So what's some things that somebody listening to can reach out, some action steps they can take to get some help? A lot of times it's, where do I start? What's the next step? I'll put the link to something in the show notes where people can take action. Tell me what that looks like.
Well, we have this thing called the Roots Up framework. And the idea is, if you want to grow the life you want in the business and the team then you got to have the roots. Without the roots, you can't grow. So it really is all about intentionality and shifting from that reactive, just letting life happen on accident, to this proactive kind of designing and growing the life you want. And the way that I found you do this, and this has kind of become my life's work, is 3 steps. It's a vision. You got to have a vision, which means, very simply, what is the life you want? Let's define it and put some words to it. Everyone can do it. I've done it with people thousands of times, and it's way easier than you think. It can be done in 10 minutes. Define the vision. All right, now that I know where I want to go, it moves down to the second thing, intention. And intentions are the steps, like goals and projects, that start bringing the vision to life. So now you got vision and intentions. The problem is both of those are out of your control. So, like, great, this is why New Year's resolutions fail, because we can't control it. We're just hoping for it. So this leads to the third thing, which is the roots. The roots are the pieces I can control. And this is mindsets and skills and rhythms. It's the little daily, weekly things that move me towards my intentions and goals, that start to bring my vision to life. And it's all connected. So instead of just picking goals out of thin air because, I don't know, so and so I listened to on a podcast had this goal, so I should do it too. It's like, no, but what are the goals for you that bring you the life that you want? That's the important part. And so this career sweet spot is actually one of those little roots. And there's multiple things that kind of form that foundation of these little practices and steps that are moving you forward. And what I found in doing this work a lot is that feels overwhelming. And to your point, where do I start? So what we did is we built a little quiz, and people can just take the 5-minute quiz, and it shows you your first step on this journey. And it's really cool because it spits out like, all right, with that roots up approach, here's your first step. Here's the first root thing for you based on where you're at. And then if you want to talk to us, we'll build what we call a growth map, which is kind of your plan of action to move forward and make it happen. And so some people will do that with a coach one-on-one, or there's ways you can do it on your own or in a group. It gives you the plan. And I find a lot of people, that's what you need, because otherwise you just get lost in the day-to-day busyness. And so I think that's a really great next step to move into intentionality.
That's good. That's good. Friends, if I was going to work on getting super fit and went to the gym, I love the gym. It's my favorite place. It's my sanctuary. But if I'm going to try to get super fit and I go to the gym, I'm not just going to go in there and kind of figure it out while I'm in there. I'm not going to go in and figure, oh, what machine am I going to do next? I think I'll go try this one. I'll go try that one. I would have a plan. I would have a plan when I go into what my exercises are going to be. And if you're trying to change your status and your fulfillment in your work and you're trying to change that, expecting that you're just going to kind of figure it out is probably not going to get it done. You're going to find yourself in the same spot 3 or 4 years. Take some action, take a first step in action and get a plan. Work with someone. Steve and his company is phenomenal. Someone that can help you get a plan. And Steve, thank you guys so much for the work that you do to help people identify that plan. I think you call it a growth map. I'm going to do it just to see kind of what that does for me. And we'll put a link to the quiz in the show notes. And friends, take an action, take a step, and you can and will have that life you want. Steve, any final words for us before we close this down?
I'm just excited for people listening. It's so funny with podcasts because we don't get to see the person listening right now, but I don't know. I think you and I both just feel it. I'm excited for somebody who's listening and needing this. And I think, maybe this is our excuse to get together in person too, is we'll do some growth mapping together.
Let's do that. I have a vision for that.
All right. Well, this is great. And yeah, people can check out in the links if they want to take any of those steps. We'll provide those.
Awesome. Guys, thanks for being on this journey of being addicted to betterment. We're passionate. We are passionate. We work super hard to bring you content that helps you and us. We learn along with you with the tools and tips and hacks to live life all in. Go make it a great day, guys. Let's go. So you just listened to this episode. Now, join us in being addicted to betterment. Please subscribe to the show, share with your friends, tag us, and please take a moment, leave a review. Yeah, we do want your stars, but we really want the feedback.